Okay, it's just being a little bit slow. Getting everything set up real quick. Da, 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 da. Goodness, pardon. Sorry, still waking up. Okay, but I'm doing pretty. Oh, pfft, I left my mask on. Oh well, screw it. It'll stay there today. Ah, da, da. Okay. Okay, so I have updated my OBS, and beyond updating my OBS, I have updated a couple other things. I'm still working on getting the buttons to work. I am having the most heck of a time trying to get the buttons down below to work properly. But I have confidence I can do this because I know I've done it before, and worst comes to worst, I'm pretty sure I can get one of my tech friends to like come and help me do it. I just need to get off my tuchus and ask. But also, it's a pandemic. It's not like they can come over. They can just verbally walk me through it. But yes, so we have got my Instagram feed up there, and we've got one of my donation buttons that I think it goes through PayPal or goes through the OBS site. But yes, I need to put more. I need to do more, and I'm gonna do more. So this is me. I'm actually completely uncaffeinated. Have not touched the coffee at all. Um, but yeah, this is me when the depression lifts. Yesterday, the depression that I was going through, I mean, I know it's probably still there, just the reality of it. Um, but yeah, yesterday it lifted like by a lot. I woke up, I actually had energy. I felt good, good. um, and I had enough spoons to like interact with people and do some things, which was awesome because I needed that. I needed that cycle to break so that I could feel functional and look at what I'd done and go, yeah, you know what? I actually have done a lot of things. This is good. This is good. Um, I have so much to do. You see parts of the chaos behind me, and there's a ton of chaos over on the other side. So yeah, it happens. Um, but yeah, I I've got energy. It feels like it should last at least a couple of days. So I'm going to use it. I am going to celebrate it. Um, I have so much going on in my life. But like the major things that are going on right now, I'm trying to think. Well, besides, I'm having so much fun doing these little sketch cards. Um, Besides doing sketch cards, I need to like get stuff listed for sale. I'm gonna check out maybe a couple of what are they? The virtual reality conventions, and see how that goes. And then let's see. I know there's other stuff I was supposed to do. Maybe I'll make some TikToks. I don't know. That'd be awesome if I actually had the mental capacity to do some TikToks. That'd be that'd be awesome. Um, yeah. But yeah, no, I'm actually doing pretty good. As you can see, I'm feeling kind of chatty even without having the coffee in my system. I'm feeling kind of chatty. So if you guys want to talk about something, let's talk about something. I'd love to have like one of those wandering conversations that goes on. You're like, how did we get from bagels to existential dread of, trying on clothing? Ow, ow, ow. But, oops, sorry, that was loud. But yeah, I think I think today's going to be decent at the very least. Which Honestly, if you've ever dealt with somebody who has depression, if they go from having a day where they can barely pull themselves out of um out of bed and like just barely functional to a day like the next day where they have energy, or at least way more energy than they had the day before. Yeah, it feels like night and day. And I know sometimes people will question that, like, well, if if you have so much energy now, well, why didn't you just have that yesterday? Why didn't you just will it? And it's like, that's not how chemical depression works. That's not how it works at all. So, for me, I can I can I can speak from my experience with a lot of gravity because it's my experience. It's my brain. It's my chemical depression and whatnot. But for me, I can go from having like next to no energy. And when I say energy, I just mean the thought of being around people makes me want to burst into tears. The actually having to interact with people, huh, because of decades of having to do this, I can fake a smile. I can have customer service. I can be looking like I'm having fun. It's okay. Don't worry. It's great. It's fine. Oh, yes, this is so much fun. But like that only lasts for like 30 seconds to a minute at a time. Thank God for masks, because like most of the time people only see your only see the eyes. They don't see the rest of my face. Um, but yeah, like I can fake the emotion of being okay or even being halfway to happy, um because I've had practice at it and because I know this is what is expected. And people's reaction to people who are depressed can be so draining. Like I don't think people who don't deal with depression have any idea what it is like to deal with them when you are a person who has depression. It is a Sisyphean task. It is monumentally draining, and sometimes can make the depression even worse because they often act like you aren't trying to not be depressed. Trust me, we want to not be depressed. We want to not feel gray or numb or, just ready to just, shatter to pieces. We want that. We don't have that. Our little brains are deciding that, no, no, you can't have nice things, ha ha ha. And they're not giving us things like dopamine, endorphin, serotonin. We're not getting the chemicals that we need in order to not feel depressed. But a person who's never dealt with depression, I guess they have more than enough serotonin. Or like when they feel sad, they're like, sad. When we feel sad, when you've dealt with clinical depression, when we feel sad, it's and when we feel gray or numb, it just is. There's no amount of trying that just makes you feel an emotion. You're just, yep, I'm here. So a lot of times you end up faking an emotion to either A, hopefully feel something, or B, to head it off at the pass when it comes to dealing with people who don't have depression. Because the last thing you want to hear is, oh, you just need to smile. You just need to, uh, you know, say that you're not depressed. You just need, no, bitch, that's not how depression works. And God, I wish you would just shut up so I don't fucking murder you because I look horrible in orange. So yeah, it's not an easy thing. And no, somebody who's depressed doesn't always look 100% depressed, mostly because they probably don't want to have to deal with your bullshit of telling them not to be depressed. Um, but yeah, like when you've had a depression that has been going on, especially if it's been going on for a couple days or maybe even a couple of weeks, and it's one of those really just nasty chemical depressions, the day you finally get some energy, yeah, it's like winning the lottery. You're having an emotion. It's a lot, and it could feel like, well, they were sad and mopey yesterday. Why are they chatty and happy and over the why couldn't they just do that yesterday? Because literally the chemicals in our brains didn't show up yesterday. Finally showed up today. So we're working with what we got. And sometimes, I'll admit this, sometimes we go, oh my God, I could have an emotion. Let's do this. And, you go overboard. It's a manic phase. You go overboard and you indulge in all the emotion. You go, oh, I feel happy. Let's watch like a bunch of good movies and let's do a bunch of stuff. And you put a lot out there. You have a lot of emotions in a very short amount of time, hopefully very positive ones. And sometimes that'll use up a lot of the serotonin and dopamine and endorphins that you have. And sometimes you have not a crash, but like a mini slump. And so you go, yay! And then the next day you're like, oh God, I'm kind of worn out. Oh God, is this depression coming back? And it takes maybe about an hour or so for your brain to warm up. Go, oh no, we're not having depression. We're just tired because we expended a lot of energy yesterday, and you have to remind yourself of that. Like, oh, I expended a lot of energy yesterday. I should probably not be hard on myself today. Hey, Grammy, how you doing, dear? Oh, oh, the coffee is so good. Oh my God. Oh, I think they use the house blend. Oh, this is good. Oh. Sorry, my local coffee shop has made me a coffee snob. Like, I can tell uh the different types of coffee that they're using now. Bell is still my favorite. It's this beautiful, smooth, chocolatey toned coffee that is just amazing. And then their house blend uses Bell and a few others. And again, it's rich but so smooth and oh, it just tastes so good. Their FTO and their WBC have a bit more. I call it a diesel kick. It has a bit more punch to it, but yeah. Today I'm actually doing really good. I'm doing really, really good. Um, so it's probably like I think I told you guys I've been depressed for a couple of weeks, like just ugly amounts of chemical depression for a couple of weeks. Yesterday, a lot of the depression lifted. I was actually able to like go and be safely sociable and deal with some stuff. And then I woke up this morning with a lot of energy and feeling really good and really, really chatty. Like literally, this is the coffee. I've had 2 sips of it and I am still feeling really good, really chatty. Like, yay, my dopamine and my serotonin have showed up. So I'm happy about that. I'm really, really happy that my my happy stuff decided to show up today, right? So yeah, no, I was just talking about how depression is one of those things that if you have it, it it's with you. It just is. It's your constant. Hey, I'm Kate. Hi. Oh my God, I'm so glad you guys are showed up. I missed y'all. I know, right? Ah. So yeah, my chemical depression has finally decided to give me 2 days in a row off. It's kind of nice. First day was like, okay, I'm not feeling depressed. What am I feeling? I have energy. We're gonna gently use it. And then yeah, today I was like, whoop. But yes. Okay. Let's rock. Let's do some education. Okay. Okay. So Portland is have you ever read A Tale of Two Cities? Because in A Tale of Two Cities it says it's the best of times and it's the worst of times. And that's very, very true of Portland. Um, but yeah, so Portland is a huge city, just to begin with. The protests are actually taking place in like 3 city blocks, I believe. 3, 4 city blocks. So there's basically a zone. Um, okay, Oregon has a pretty deep and nasty history that nobody talks about. It was created as a white only state when it was first established. Literally. Like literally. A lot of that still persists to today. Oregon is a very, 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 very Caucasian state. Um, which is why I'm looking at these protests in both marvel and horror because it's not like you have a huge contingency of people of color who are showing up to these protests. You have a massive contingency of Caucasian people showing up and protesting. And I am talking sign carrying, arm linking, COVID mask wearing, hippy dippy white people showing up to protest what is going on and keeping it within about a 3 or 4 city block limit. And they're being exceedingly peaceful and exceedingly pleasant. And honestly, when I look at the news sources, there isn't rioting. There are vigils. There are oh god, I've blinked on the name for like almost like a shrine. There are places where people are putting down, signs and doing chalk arts and flowers and stuff for people who have passed, who have been killed by the police or brutalized, all that kind of thing. So people are showing up and they are being super peaceful. Um, not everybody is perfectly peaceful, but they're being really, really peaceful. And they are being met with uh cops in SWAT gear, cops in tactical gear, tear gas, beatings. I mean, like, cops are shooting people in the face at nearly point blank range with rubber bullets. And don't let the word rubber bullet fool you into thinking that it's, that big and it's just rubber. It's not. It's a metal coated or a metal core rubber coated round that is probably about 2 fingers wide and, like about that big around. So, I mean, these are big rounds and they're hitting people, they're aiming for faces. It's not, oh, we aimed at the ground, it ricocheted and somebody got hit in the face. No, they're aiming at faces. So, yeah, like there's so many human rights violations going on, trust me. So honestly, I'm amazed that the protesters are keeping their shit together as well as they are, but they really are. They are holding true to the core values, and I applaud them on that, honestly. The violence that is being brought has been brought by the police, by federal agents, and possibly by mercenaries. And I'm not even shitting you when I use that word. There is a company called Blackwater. I believe it is run by Betty DeVos's relative. They are mercenaries slash bodyguard slash assholes for hire who have been dressing up in gear very similar to what the federal agents use. So they basically look like military members. And they are abducting people off the streets. And here's the thing, these are just people who happen to be walking down the streets. Some of them were at the protest. Some of them are just people who are like walking down the street coming back from the grocery store kind of thing. And had nothing to do with the protest, had nothing to do with any sort of civil action. And they're just like surrounding them and then escorting them to unmarked vehicles who are being provided by Enterprise Rental Car. And if you guys would like to go and do something really wonderful, because I know you can't like necessarily show up to a protest in Portland, Oregon, but if you guys want to do something really wonderful, please go to Enterprise Rent a Car on their social media and read them for filth. Like, straight up, ask them, why are they providing vehicles to non-military or even military personnel to abduct citizens? Like, straight up, read them for filth. Because honestly, social media works when it comes to a company like that. And I don't think people knew that it was Enterprise Rent-A-Car that was renting vehicles so that our citizens could be abducted. But now that we know, like, the best thing we can do is get on social media and straight up call them out for pulling that shit, because not kosher at all. So yeah, Portland is actually way, it's not destroyed. It honestly is. In fact, apparently, like, people who live in Portland near those blocks are now driving around and taking pictures to like show what's going on, because they're like, why do people keep thinking that our city is on fire? It literally isn't. Like, there are no fires going on. So like, people are now driving around those couple of city blocks and whatnot, taking pictures and film so that they can like post it on social media just to, hey, it's not on fire. In fact, there's less trash than usual because the protesters are actually cleaning up after themselves. They're having a protest and then they're like taking care of any, garbage, any spills, anything that might have happened. They're keeping the city cleaner than normal. If that tells you anything right there. But yeah, it's scary if you're living there, but it's not scary because of the protesters. It's scary because of the police, of the feds, and the possible mercenaries that are there who are being exceedingly violent, and they're not being safe or discriminatory as to which direction they are firing or what they are doing. Like, they don't care who they hit. The mayor, I think it was the mayor. I believe it was the mayor of Portland, was at the protest. And he got straight up tear gassed to the face. When your city officials are showing up and feel safe enough to show up to a protest to stand with the people of their town, and they straight up get tear gassed, like, there's an issue. It's like, what in the hell? You know what? The bravest thing you could do, though, is to leave your house. If you can't join the protest, still the bravest thing you can do is leave your house, go grab your groceries, go do what you need to do. Because in a small way, what it's telling the people who are acting up, acting the fool, and violating these civil rights, these civil liberties that we have, it's basically telling them, you guys are a bunch of assholes. Like, literally, you're the one making it not kosher around here. You're the ones creating the issue. I'm not afraid of the protesters. As you see, I'm walking right by them, and I'm going and I'm doing my business, and I'm doing what I need to do. You're the ones making it bad. So, mm. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I get it. I really, really, really get it. I super get it. Um, where I live is a bit removed from a lot of the bigger protests. I honestly wish I was near some of the larger protests because I would like to show up to some of them. But yeah, like a lot of the stuff that is going on is now very one-sided and sensationalized because in order to sell ad revenue, you have to, I don't know, have something sensational that is getting clicks to your website. So that's exactly what the news is doing a lot of times is they're finding the most egregious incidences and reporting it as if that is the coverall, the end all be all of everything that's going on, and it's not. So I've honestly stopped relying on a lot of major media sources because A, they're not liberal. I always love that lie. That is hilarious to me when they go, "Oh, these liberal blah blah blah." No, no. News cycle is definitely not liberal. Um, just some of them still have some journalistic integrity left, so they don't report super fake bullshit, and they fact check their sources because they are still recognized as journalistic entities. And here in America, we actually do have some laws about journalistic integrity. You cannot be, technically, you cannot be a news source and report something that is super verifiably false. Like if you report something in error that turns out to be false, then you're like, ooh. And you're supposed to print a retraction or you're supposed to state a retraction when you messed up. Fox is not a news channel. Fox is not a news source. There is a reason they have to say Fox News Entertainment, or they tend to put entertainment somewhere, either on their logos, in their print, in their media, somewhere in there. There's usually entertainment. That that word entertainment is to cover their ass because they've been sued before and they were told by a judge, you can't call yourself news because you're not reporting news, you're not reporting factual things, you're reporting some facts and then you're reporting some stuff that is wholly untrue. So yeah. Yep. Yep. And that's the whole thing is people focus on the word news and they know that because news, they put news in much bigger letters, much brighter letters, and it's the first word. So your brain tends to process the first couple of words of something before it really goes on. So yeah, it's a very shifty way to get past laws that require uh, journals and news sources to be factual. So yeah, they have no journalistic integrity. But even you watch them long enough, you could see it in the anchors' faces, and sometimes even when they're reporting the news, you can tell that they're like, "This is straight up bullshit." Like you could tell like a lot of them are becoming seriously disillusioned and having to face the reality that they are helping spread propaganda that is not only getting people killed, but making the world worse in many ways. And like when you see the the joy and hope fade from their little rat faces, like I don't know whether to be happy or just like you want to laugh because it's so absurd. It's so George Orwell 1984, like some of the words even that they use is very, very George Orwell 1984. Um, and it's almost like they used that book as a blueprint for what to do, and they have implemented it. It may have taken them a couple of decades extra, because hey, you don't want to be right on time, but yeah. So no, Portland's actually doing much better than you would think. It's definitely not on fire. Um, and the protesters aren't destroying things. Um, check other sources than just the news media. Check person to person sources to verify and to double check. Um, I know that a lot of people are like, but but no. Use things like, okay, this is hilariously bad, but I use TikTok. I use TikTok to kind of look at, okay, well, what's going on? Because a lot of people on TikTok, they're just there. They're people. So when they're recording, a lot of them don't have on filters. They don't, they're like, okay, I was here at the protest and here's what's going on. So like you can get a direct, you can get a more direct look at what's going on and kind of double check your sources. Especially when certain people are posting up, oh my god, the city is gone to pot, and there's rioting and looting in the streets, and our downtown is being decimated, and like literally you just go check another social news media source or another social media source, and people like who are literally boots on the ground there are like, yeah, hey, everybody's holding hands and it's all peaceful, and well, there's a cop knocking over a trash can. Yep, that happened. Aw. So yeah. hmm Yeah, people are being attacked by the police, by feds, and possibly by Blackwater agents, which that throws like a kind of a new, for me, very scary gray area in there. Because if somebody were to approach me dressed in military gear, I might think that they're military. But if they're trying to escort me to an unmarked vehicle, I'm fighting straight up, because I'm a woman, and like literally my skin color doesn't even play into this particular mindset. I'm a woman, and I've been taught never let a kidnapper take you to a secondary location. Like, if you're gonna go down fighting, because being taken to a secondary location 90% of the time, that's where they make you disappear for good. That's where you get tortured, that's where you get murdered. Secondary location. If you fight, there's a good chance you at least survive, and a even better chance that you're leaving evidence, especially with as many people are filming. You're leaving evidence of what's going on. So yeah. Mhm. Like literally the moment you get into a vehicle, because a vehicle is a mobile crime scene basically. I hate to be morbid, but yeah, a vehicle is basically a mobile crime scene. So you don't get into it because they could take you anywhere, ditch the car and burn it. At the very least, they could take you to a secondary location, and then nobody knows who you are, where you are. They don't know if you're missing. But if you're kicking, screaming, fighting, like punching the shit out of somebody and refusing to go, there's half a chance somebody will actually help. And honestly, we need to start pushing that narrative forward, that if you see this going on, you need to help. Like, maybe not even necessarily throw punches, but if 100 people surround, you know, two military dressed people and refuse to move, just straight up refuse to move, 100 people can wreck your shit. 100 people can keep a person who's being abducted from being abducted and almost don't need to throw a punch when it comes to it because there's 100 of them. So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely better. Even if they literally, even if they have a gun to your head, fighting back, making yourself a bigger meal than they can bite off, would 100% suggest doing that. Like, don't just go with, because the moment you look compliant, the moment you agree, you've relinquished a lot of your rights and you've relinquished a lot of momentum. And yeah, it's yeah, don't get in the vehicle. Do not get in the vehicle. Especially because the people who've been doing this have been refusing to identify themselves. So you literally have no reason to think or believe that they are actually government agents who have the authority to take you anywhere, to question you, or anything to that effect. And like, straight up, like, we have right-wing militia groups, Proud Boys, Boogaloo. I could have sworn there was like one more. And they're dressing up in military gear as well. So you might not be able to tell, because, you know, they're right up in your face, and sometimes your brain shuts down a little bit. You might not be able to tell if they are military, or federal, or even actual police, unless you get time to like look over their outfits. And even then, like, you might not know all the little telltale signs to look for. And if their badge is covered, if their name is covered, if they have like no decals, no demarkers, all that kind of stuff, that could just be some rando in some camo gear. And I don't put it past these right-wing nut jobs to not be picking up protesters, torturing them, and possibly murdering them to try and dissuade people from going to protest. So yeah, no, don't get in the cars. Don't get in the cars. Fuck that noise. Go down swinging. Go down fight. This is, I think, the biggest thing for me. Excuse me while I shut a door. Never mind. Sorry, didn't want a dog suddenly licking my feet and then me screaming like a little bitch. But yeah, no. Where was my thought process? Yeah, if you can't be 100% sure the person in front of you is a person of authority, you need to fight it. And in my opinion, we need to like really inform people of ways to resist, especially as a crowd. Honestly, that's where the power is going to come from, and that's where we're going to do the most good, is if people start acting calmly as a crowd, not as a mob, but as a crowd. If you can get a crowd to do something, you have exponentially more power because you have numbers. And two people with guns is powerful, but 100 people who are willing to press up against them, who are willing to put hands on them to get dangerous implements away from them without, going full ham and just killing them. Will like get their weapons away from them, strip them down so that they're in their boxers. And then that way they don't have their gun. Throw it all down a storm drain if you need to. And I mean, A, getting into a storm drain takes some doing. B, recovering that equipment is then going to take some doing. And they're going to have to clean that shit. So, yeah, I'm all for 100, like, I'm all for a crowd just engulfing them, swarming them, stripping them, throwing all their gear down a storm drain, and then letting them walk home in their boxers. Make sure you take the shoes and socks too. That's all I gotta say. Literally leave them in their boxers. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that was like my big thing is like the people who were picking up citizens off the streets. They were wearing like eye slits, full balaclava kind of style, like face, all of the face covered, obscured. You couldn't even tell hardly what race they were, save for a very narrow strip over the eyes. So, you might have been able to see a bridge of a nose. That was it. I'm like, you can't tell anything from that. And that's also why, and I rarely ever, 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 ever say that somebody should do this. But if those individuals were to be doxxed, and I'm not saying anybody should ever show up on their doorstep or anything like that, but if they were to be doxxed so that they could be later located and tried for the civil rights violations that they are perpetrating, I'd be all for that, because it kind of harkens back to like World War II Nazi Germany. Um, a lot of the soldiers in the work camps, in the concentration camps, in the death camps, they said, "Oh, well, I was just a faceless soldier. I didn't have, I was just following orders." Well, that did not alleviate them of their responsibility as a human being to not do these horrible things. And the Nuremberg trials showed us that. Um, Actually, a couple of years ago, I believe there was uh, some Nazi asshole guard who, I think he was in his 90s. He's super old. They finally found him, and they took him to trial. And he's like, I was just a guard. I was just following orders. And they went, no, that excuse didn't work in the Nuremberg trials. Sure as hell ain't gonna work now. We don't care how old you are. Welcome to jail, asshole. Like, mm-hmm. Yeah. And here's the thing. Everybody thinks that the abductions and the Gestapo started with the Jews. They didn't. They didn't. They started with the blacks, or I shouldn't even say the blacks. They started with Africans, literally Africans. They went to Ghana, I believe, set up a miniature concentration camp, killed about 200,000 uh, Guyanese Africans, test running the gas chambers and the ovens. And they did so because they wanted to see what the reaction to, yes, they were testing for efficiency, but they also wanted to see what the reaction to something like this would be. And so, of course, they picked people who were, that most of the world had a huge prejudice against, and that would be Black people, people of color. And Europe had already decimated so many places in Africa and disseminated propaganda that Africa was nothing but mud huts and tribesmen, and it was a total shithole, and these were just poor ignorant pygmies wearing loincloths kind of thing. So they had already had that fucking campaign going on for like centuries, and so they thought it would be easier to test there, and that way if people were like truly fucking outraged, they would go, my bad, and walk away from it. And there was literally so little reaction that they knew that they could slowly step it up. And even then, they didn't go directly um, to the Jews, who were one of the biggest targets. They went from that, which, by the way, there is still a German settlement parked on top uh, of these lands, and they refuse to move because they're like, but I was born here and blah blah. I'm like, you were born there because your ancestors literally, well, not even ancestors, your grandfather showed up, killed 200,000 people in a mini genocide, and your ass just your parents snatched up land. Like mm, I'm not saying this should happen, but if the Guyanese people come in and go, you got 2 weeks to get your shit and get out, and if you don't, we're gonna whoop your ass out of here. I ain't gonna be mad. I'm not gonna be mad because they have every right to that. I'm just saying. Um, but yeah, after they went to Africa, again, they didn't hit the Jews first. Jewish people were very rather white looking a lot of the time. Some, yes, did follow Hasidic rules and wore full traditional uh, the black Cossacks and the whole thing. But a lot were very much uh, Caucasian. They could pretty much blend in, save for say like their last names, or the fact that they could speak Yiddish, or there was a little bit of an accent or whatever. So yeah, they were very close to being very, very much just German citizens. You would not be able to tell the difference. So they were an end game, because if you go straight for it, people will go, "Hey, what are you do?" No, not cool, dude, not cool. Um, so instead they went for the disabled, because disabled people were seen as a drain to society. They were seen as being, you know, less valuable than, say, a work animal. Uh, there was massive amounts of eugenics. That whole master race thing, it started off very, very small, and more of a, oh, we're just talking. It's just a little philosophy we're talking about, like how can we get the best, the best for our society? Well, we need to have, people who are healthy and able-bodied, and that way we'll be able to be productive and blah blah blah. So yeah, it's it starts out very weirdly, insidiously small, and it moves up by small measures. So yeah, they went for disabled people. They went for I want to say dissidents. So people who kind of spoke out against the government, or at least were going, dude, our government kind of sucks. We need to do something better. And like the loud proponents, they slowly started going for them. And they went for the LGBTQ community because of the massive stigma that there has been for quite some time against people who are gay, who are lesbian, who are trans. Like, that was already seen as a mental illness, um, and you could literally put somebody in an asylum in the 17 and 1800s for being gay, for being lesbian, because it was seen as such an unnatural, an unnatural mindset. So of course you must be mentally ill. Oy. Um, but yeah, it was this really messed up thing that they did. But yeah, they slowly went down the line. And so yeah, they got, they got the disabled people, they got the LGBTQ people, they got the dissidents, and then they slowly started working through the ranks and the classes of people in society. So by the time it got to the Jews, it had been going on for years. And at first it was just small things. They took away little liberties. They limited what kind of jobs they could have. They limited the places that they could live. They started making them, carry papers to prove who they were, and then wearing um, emblems, the star emblem, the Star of David. Just little things, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, which is why I'm so fearful for, when I say people of color, I mean all people of color, but especially for Black people and Native Americans in this country, because we have relegated Native Americans. We're not saying, oh, if you're Native American, you could only live here, but we've relegated them to small bits of land that concentrate their community into a very tight space. And that means anybody who wishes to do them harm knows of a really good place to show up to hurt them. Worries me on so many levels. But yeah, they slowly worked their way through the social ranks of society till they got to their end goal there. And that's when they went to other countries and started doing the exact same thing. And it irritates me on some level that we always say, oh, 6 million Jews died. I'm like, yeah. And 6 million Polish people died because they saw the Poles as being on basically the same level as the Jews. Like, they slaughtered Polish people. And uh, there's a long lasting effect in Poland because of that. Poland is still super homophobic. And Poland has a lot of white supremacy issues, to say the least. Um, but yeah, like, it's slowly spread to other places, but we rarely talk about the 6 million Polish people who were slaughtered unless you are Polish, and then you tend to bring that up a bit more. But also, I mean, they abducted the Romani, people who were nomadic travelers because of a whole, like, I could go on forever on that history, but they took down the Romani. Oh man, they decimated them. I believe 2 million, 1 to 2 million Romani died, and that's just the ones we know of. Um, they decimated populations, to say the least. Russia sucked ass. Okay, they killed 20 million of their own just to prove the point that they were strong enough to do so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and then, like, nobody seems to ever talk about what Japan did. There's a reason Japan and China hate each other. Um, and I, it wasn't so much a mistake. I didn't know I was going down a rabbit hole until I was about shoulder deep. But yeah, what Japan did to China and Korea and it, like, on so many levels, I think that they need to really teach not just that Japan participated, but what Japan did. Because what Japan did was, oh my God, you want to talk about make you throw up from the sheer how the fuck can people do this to other living human beings? Like, what the fuck? And like Japan has tried to bury it so hard. Like, and they've done a really good job at burying how much participation and how much damage they did. They killed probably as many Chinese people as Germany did to the Jews. That they yeah, it's fucked up. It's super fucked up. Yeah. Well, it's scary to think that one human could do that to another human, but you also have to think of it as they didn't they didn't do this, they like one day they didn't wake up and go, I'm really tired of being an artist. I'm just gonna go kill a bunch of people, and everybody's like, okay, yeah, yeah, that seems like a thing to do. No, it was tiny little steps, tiny little stages, and each time they justified why they were doing that. This is why America is currently like 1932 Germany. We are so close to being 1933 Germany. It's terrifying. Like, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yes. I hate the name. I hate the fucking name. Korean comfort women. I will never say comfort women without doing that. Because comfort women were simply women who the Japanese threatened, kidnapped, tortured, and raped. There's like there is no way around that. There is no there is no making that pretty. But they're like, "Oh, our boys, we don't want to be in this war, but we happen to be in this war. And all of our officers and soldiers, they're just away from their families and they need a little release. So you might want to provide some of that release for them, or else, they get kind of murdery. You threaten people with death or rape? Like, who? What? How? So yeah, it's not like they go from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds flat. They creep up on it. It's little things that they justify bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. That's that's the insidious part of it. That is the part of everything that's going on that is so terrifying. That's what's going on with our government currently. They're not doing everything all at once. We already have concentration camps here. We already, and I am straight up telling you, we already have concentration camps on United States American soil. We have them here in California. We have them pretty much in all 50 states. We put brown people in them. We put people who are coming in looking for asylum in them without giving them due process. We've been doing that for years now. The detention centers used to be just that: detain, process, and either give you asylum or send you back. Under Obama, I love when they're Obama. Yeah, when Obama was doing it, we still didn't really like it, but at least they were being processed fairly quickly and mostly humanely. And we were looking for people who had criminal records. So the people who were being detained and the people who were being shipped out um, had criminal records for the most part. We did not separate children from their parents. In fact, we made sure that they stayed together. Ever since Cinnamon Twitler took over, that particular policy has totally gone by the wayside. And yeah, they're separating children, and they've lost to date at least 3,000 children. There's at least 1,200 reports of sexual abuse. And the government says, well, we're not responsible for what happens there. Yeah, you are, because you're running the damn thing and you put them there. You're absolutely responsible for what's going on there because you're not doing anything to stop it. So yeah. So yeah, it's there's a lot going on, and honestly, I think the lack of education that the American public has access to has put us in this situation, because not only are they not critically thinking, they are they aren't knowledgeable about history, and so we are literally repeating history because a lot of people are not smart enough to know that we're doing the exact same thing that happened roughly 100 years ago to the day. So, yeah. Okay. But yeah, like there's so much going on, and sometimes it's really hard to know what to do. And like one of the few things that you can do is stand up. And it, trust me, it takes a monumental amount of bravery and balls to stand up and do what is straight up right in the moment. But in the end, it you know it's gonna be the right thing to do. But yeah, it's scary and it's fucked up, and sometimes you second guess what you're doing because you've been conditioned not to question, not to resist, and to view a certain group of people in a very, very certain way. So yeah, I trust me, I get it. I totally get it. But yeah, 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 yeah. We're going through it right now. Honestly, I think in 50 years, it'll be interesting to see what the history books say about the next like 10 to 20 years. Um, yeah, it's scary, it's weird, but I'm very hopeful that we will make it through it. And a lot of that is going to rest on Gen Z's shoulders. I'm not saying, oh my God, Gen Z, you have to do everything. I think Gen Z is the one who's gonna end up getting shit done, because I love Gen Zs. I want to protect them, but they are such cheerful nihilists. And like watching Gen Z deal with this, if you could take, I don't know, if you could take Joan of Arc and cross that with Ralph Wiggum's, that's basically Gen Z. They're, they're like, yep, no, fun, stupid meme. Let's rock this shit. It's like, how can you be so willing to just die? They're like, have you seen the world? We're gonna die anyways. Let's do this noise. Like, wow, you're happy to die and you're making memes about it while you're at it. Holy crap. Soon as this is over, I swear, baby, we're gonna get you some therapy. Like, I worry, but at the same point in time, they are so much more badass than they even know. And to them, it's Tuesday. You're just like, how can you, like, this is my everyday? It's like, I'm sorry, baby. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm 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 gonna get you like we can get you some mochi and some a share circle. We'll find you a safe space. They're like, oh no, we gotta take care of this shit first. And they're like, I wanna protect them, but at the same point in time, they are doing so much good. And they are doing so much amazing stuff. Like, oh my god. So, and this is why I love the little Gen Zs. These brilliant little devils decided that Trump holding his rally was not only so not cool, so not kosher, not just because of COVID, but because of everything going on. They found his website where the tickets are being given away for free, as they usually are, because, yeah, nobody wants to put up with this shit. Anyways, they found his website. They found out tickets are free and that you could reserve them online. And using the power of social media, they got together and reserved tickets to the rally. They reserved 1 million tickets. Trump thought, and I mean, it was a stadium that holds maybe, I think it was like 30,000 people, which is a pretty sizable stadium. Not huge, but pretty sizable. Somehow they thought 1 million people were just gonna like fill that stadium and then just be poured out into the surrounding area and just this big massive show of people. 6,200, or about 6,000. I think 200 might have been staff, but 6,200 people showed up to that rally that had been marked for 1 million people. And above and beyond that, I'm wondering how many of those 6,200 were paid seat fillers, because Trump uses paid seat fillers for his rallies. And I cackle at that, because literally he puts up ads on Craigslist and other gig economy type sites, offering like 50 to, I think it's like 100 or so, maybe even more, dollars per event, per day, whatever, to show up, fill seats, and hold signs. I cackle at this because when you make the bold ass claim that that you're badass, that 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 you can get these people to show up, that people support you, whatnot, and yet every day you're shelling out money to show up to your event and whatnot. Like, what the hell? And now, oh my god, this is comedy on a morbid level in my brain. There have been pop-up tents that have been showing up selling Trump merch, like on the side of the road. And so often they are being run by people of color, by Latin and by Black people, selling like Trump 2020 kind of merch. And I was like, how could anybody do this? Well, my friend tripped over not an advertisement, but a listing saying, hey, if you run one of these pop-up tents for us selling Trump merch, They're paying people like $350 a day to run these pop-up tents. $350 a day is more than what you would make at a full-time job getting minimum wage. Right? I'm yeah. Like I'm like $350 a day. I could sit there and not sell merch and have terrible customer service for $350 a day. I mean, shit. You know, I would use it as a teaching point or, to mock him or any number of things. But you better give me my money up front cuz I'm not taking that job without my money up front. He's known for not paying his workers. But yeah, it's like, well, for $350 a day. So, let's see. I want to say minimum wage is roughly 7.25. Yeah. So if you were to work, let's say you somehow got a long shift at 10 hours. At 7.25, you would make $72.50 roughly for the day before taxes. If you're making $70 a day working for minimum wage, heck, let's even take a good paying job. I work delivery. I worked my ass off. And on a very good day, working roughly 10-hour shift, if I make $200, that's a very good day for me. So, working a 10-hour shift for $200, if I were to run this pop-up tent, I could make $350. I'm just like, I could see why people would probably take the money, especially in the particular pandemic economy that we have going on right now. Like, especially seeing as we got one stimulus slash here you go, please don't die rent check. What was it, months ago? April? May? Something like that. So yeah, we got one $1,200 check a couple months ago. A lot of our people cannot get unemployment because they are gig economy workers. And yeah. But yeah, it's like I could see where people would take the money, and I can't necessarily fault them because people are fucking hurting here. So yeah. Well, that and it's easy enough to mock a lot of that merchandise. Like when it says Trump 2020, all I could think is like for jail, because the moment he's not president, he could be served all kinds of like papers and whatnot to charge him with like high crimes, high crimes and misdemeanors. So, and there's speculation that because of all of the crimes he has committed, not just crimes against citizens, but like straight up like possible money laundering, racketeering, like all of the money crimes that he's racked up in this time, the moment he is not president, he can be served with papers for all of those. So since he could have so many criminal charges uh, uh, put against him, there is gentle speculation that near the end of his term as president, he might take a trip out of the country, possibly to, say, like Russia or something to that effect, and just not return from that trip in a non extradition country. And that's how he's going to skirt getting thrown in jail. for all of the different crimes that he has committed. I was like, yeah, it sounds like about something he would do. So yeah, yeah, yeah. That's yeah. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Yeah, like I hope the people of the world know that like most, and I am talking we are talking like 60+% of Americans know that we are a shit show right now. It's just that 60+% of the American citizens are not in positions of power that could enact a legal means of change for a lot of the shit that's going on right now. We are working on changing. There is some small change, but it is definitely change. Unfortunately, change takes a lot of time. So much freaking time. And I'm hoping we get it done before shit goes super sideways. Um but yeah, it's it's a lot. It's a lot. It really really is. Um and here's the thing. If if we truly didn't love the country, we would have bailed. Like straight up we would have bailed the moment Cinnamon Twitler was put in power. But when you really love something, especially when you really love like your country, you fight for it. Because here's the thing, America started off as a British colony. Straight up British colony. We were British citizens. We happened to just be in a different part of the world, but we were British citizens. And we didn't like what was going on. So by the logic of people who tell us if you don't like it just leave, being that we were British citizens, if we just didn't like it, we could have left, kind of thing. Well, then there would be no America. We loved our country enough on many levels that we fought for it, and we fought for the betterment of it. We fought for the betterment of our society, and that's why America is here. So to think that we should not fight injustice tells me that you know that the system is unjust, and you're okay that it is unjust because it suits you, because you're an asshole, or because you have power, or a bit of both. But yeah, no, we fight for a reason, and we're not just going to give up because it's tough. We're not just going to give up because it's hard. We're not going to give up because this, that, or the other, or because you tell us to. We're going to fight for it. And not fighting for a country you love so that you can see it become a better version of itself. That is a travesty. And that is not the America, or at least not the ideal of America that we were raised on. So to think, tea throwing, guerrilla fighting, smackdown over whiskey, stamps, tea, paper, snowball throwing at military personnel. Thank you, black man. Yeah, literally. I think it was the Jamestown massacre. Black man. Why do I want to say his name was Atticus? I'm thinking Kill a Mockingbird. But anyways, black man threw a snowball literally just a snowball, at some British military types because they were being assholes. And he's like, well, I'm not going to shoot you, but boop, hit him with a snowball. They shot him, killed him. There was a massacre. I believe about four people died, or at least there was about a dozen injuries or so, and the black guy died. Gee, figure that one. It was known as the shot heard around the world because it was British military taking severe actions against unarmed citizens. Gee, why does that seem so familiar? And basically breaking the rules of protocol on many levels. And it was like, dude, he threw a snowball. Overreact much? Well, if you like overreactions, you're going to love what we do next. And that's exactly what we did. We started throwing down. And it's like, yeah, like, we're doing it all over again. But that's the whole thing is, we don't stop fighting. We're American. We're trying to do better, but sometimes you still do need to throw a haymaker to get your point across that, hey, your bullshit ain't gonna stand. So, yeah, it's complex, it's complicated, it's never quite as easy as it appears. But also, I want to say that, honestly, we appreciate the world. We appreciate the fact that you guys are holding rallies and holding marches and protesting, not just for yourselves, but also for what's going on with us. We appreciate the fact that you are sending us good vibes and solidarity. We appreciate that you are concerned about what's going on with us as a nation, as citizens, as people. We really do appreciate that. And we get that we are your trash cousins. We really do understand this. Like, a massive amount of us understand that we look like the most yokel. Oh man, it's like a bad reality show. We know it. We honestly do. And we are trying to make it better. Unfortunately, it takes a long time because so many of us are trying to go about it in the legal means, which means we're hacking our way through a lot of red tape because there's been a lot of laws enacted to make it difficult for us to make major changes quickly that don't benefit the richest and most powerful among us. So yeah. I'm hoping you guys will. I'm really hoping that students will hold their own once you're back. Because honestly, when it comes down to civil actions, while old people have the most power because they've been around the longest and a lot of laws have been enacted to give older, richer people more power in society, um, honestly, the most change seems to come through the youngest or the younger people in our societies, the students, the blue collar workers, the just people who are doing their damnedest, who have the vim and vigor to stand up and fight these things even though they're young. Not just because they have their ideals, not just because it's the cool thing to do, but because they're like, look, you're going to be dead soon enough. I have to live through this. My younger siblings are going to have to live through whatever happens. And we're here for a much longer time, we're going to do better than what you guys are doing, because what you guys are doing, not good, not cool, not kosher. No, 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 we're not doing this. I may fight and die, or I may not win this battle, but I am going to win the war, because it's important for me to um it's important to me that the next generation doesn't have to go through this exact same shit all over again, because they don't deserve to have to live this messed up life that you've foisted upon us. So, yeah. Yeah, and now we make up more and more of the votes, and that's the whole thing. Is we have to keep on pressure um to get people registered, especially young people. Get registered. Vote. And if voting doesn't work, yeah, absolutely step up the game and take out some teeth if you gotta. But get registered first, and then hold your protest second, and then get inventive if you need to, but figure out ways to fight. And boy, if you want to know some great ways to fight, look at the Hong Kong protesters. Those students are amazing. I I'm in utter awe of the students who are protesting in Hong Kong. In fact, everybody who's protesting in Hong Kong. Holy crap, you want to talk about guerrilla warfare without firing a shot? Hong Kong. I am I am in utter awe. They have figured out how to protest, how to do it peacefully, and how to return fire without trying to kill somebody when it comes to police being violent against them. They wear hard hats. They wear masks, not just for safety, but they wear the masks to protect them against tear gas. They've learned how to quell tear gas canisters quickly. They've learned how to um, obscure their identities and deal with a surveillance police state effectively. They've learned how to coordinate using social medias. If the Chinese government were to try and black out all social media, that would be bad, because that would be 1 billion people you're suddenly trying to turn into North Korea, and that would go, I think, very poorly for them, honestly. Um, but yeah, like, in order to make it more difficult for police vehicles to um, abduct or target and harm citizens, they started super gluing bricks to the street and making it difficult. That makes it not only difficult for horses, but it makes it difficult for uh, vehicles, and even what do you call it? It's made it difficult for even ground troops to just wander through and do whatever they want, because they have to now step around bricks and deal with that. Hello, Crickavelli TV. Welcome. But yeah, like they're brilliant on certain levels. And it kind of gives me hope, because they are sharing this information openly with other protesters, and they're going, "Hey, look, there are ways to protest. There are ways to resist, and you never have to be violent." So, yeah. Is there anything I have to do to redeem that? Because I want to make sure that Hopefully you guys can see that too, because Cricket Valley said, howdy. Hello. But yeah, it's like I'm amazed at how brilliant these young protesters have been, because honestly, our people still haven't figured it out. Like, dude, quell tear gas grenades, because those things are like super caustic and actually really really harmful. Like, quell them quickly. But yeah, no, they showed us how to, like, hey, return the canister to sender, or here's how you put one of those out really quick, and it takes like 30 seconds, if not less. So I'm like, that's impressive. Like, on many levels, that's really freaking impressive that they figured that shit out. And then they're giving you the information. So it's like they're making their own shields. They're making their own resistance gear. And it's awesome. It's so awesome. I love it. But yeah. No. 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 But you see, if they simply move, not only does the government win, it sends the message that what the government was doing was okay, and if they use that same amount of force, uh, that other regimes or other resistance will simply just crumble. Because, hey, look, these other people gave up. It basically demoralizes the populace, and it shows them that the resistance was not warranted and won't do anything. So that's probably the reason they are not simply giving up, even if they've been battered. And here's the thing, when it comes to long-term resistance, you're going to have moments where it either sort of looks quelled, or you see a little die down. It's because of like exhaustion. Like, it can be very exhausting to do this for long periods of time. So you're going to see a moment of exhaustion where they're actually regrouping and thinking up new strategies, and then it swells again, and you'll see it down and up. So it's not something that's just constant, hard, never ending. That's oh god, what is the name for that kind of like the Luftwaffe, the stormtroopers, the shock troopers. They went in and did like the most extreme shit they possibly could the moment they were there. That was meant to demoralize and to quell any sort of resistance very quickly. And all that tended to do was your resistance in the area looks like it shrinks for a little bit, and then they explode back up because they learned new ways to resist or learned better ways to resist. But they had to take that moment to think and breathe. Yeah, and absolutely, Crooked Valley TV, you're dead on. Social media has really helped spread information, because now average citizen can talk to another average citizen and go, hey, I see that you've got this similar problem here. Here's how we're dealing with it. Do you guys have any better advice? Let's change notes. And you can do so in coded language, and you can do so in mass. And it's very, very hard for even a government to go, no, and shut you down, because there's so many of you, and there's so many different apps out there and so many different sources of social media, that unless they have kids working for them, which I don't think they do, but unless they have kids who are very much up on social media working for them, they're never going to be able to get ahead of that curve per se. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You're dead on there, Grammy Norma. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So there is this feeling of exhaustion, and part of that exhaustion is mass media, because mass media again gives you all this sensationalized uh uh news. They get in your face and they're like, here's the thing, sensationalized, oh my god, so much going on. And they basically force feed you the most sensational or the most emotion inducing stories almost nonstop, and you get really anxious and ramped up, and then suddenly they will back off on how much of that they give you, and it creates this false sense of exhaustion. But also, yeah, people on the media or in regular social media, it's going to reflect that sense of overall exhaustion, because you're like, ah, oh, slow news day. Okay, we're gonna breathe. Wow, I really am tired. So, but no, it's honestly more often than not, it's a regrouping and a regathering. So yeah, like Texas is feeling some exhaustion. I know LA is feeling some exhaustion. Right now in Portland, that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to create exhaustion. Um, but like a great example of this is, do you remember before, let's say, the 4th of July? Before the 4th of July, every single fucking night, fireworks from about 8 p.m. to like 2 or 3 in the mornings in a lot of the major cities. This was a police tactic. Like literally, the police were setting off fireworks, or they were selling fireworks to those who would set it off, or they were having the fire department set these things off. They were running their sirens. They were, they were creating a lot of noise and chaos to try and sleep deprive protesters. Something that, I mean, this is a technique that has been used for ages. But yeah, they were trying to run people ragged so they would be too tired to protest and too tired to do anything. Um, and they used the cover of, well, 4th of July is coming up and people are just getting restless. They're just setting off all these fireworks. But we can't be everywhere to try and stop these people from setting off all these fireworks. Oh well. Yeah. No, no, boo boo. We see you. And then the moment 4th of July was over, notice how few firework incidents have been reported since then. Yeah. Reports of fireworks going off from like night to early morning have plummeted. I have heard maybe half a dozen fireworks go off since the 4th of July. And literally, it was literally the day after 4th of July is when that died down. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Not only has mass social media destroyed major news sources as being the only experts out there, you can get fact checked in real time on massive social media platforms. And I love it. I am here for it. It is brilliant because you have a live stream going on and you say something asinine. But guess what? You have millions of people who can literally fact check you and go, that doesn't sound right. Dude, we've got like 4 major world medical sources who are not driven by big money pharmacology or anything like that, who are simply saying, yeah, no, that's not how molecules work. That's not how science, that, do you even science, bro? Like CDC, WHO, like these big major, you know, sources are going, no, no. Okay, you don't wear the mask simply to protect yourself. the mask helps to protect others. And if everybody wears a mask, it cuts down on possible infection rates. So, yeah. So yeah, it's great because you could, oh my god. Ah. Well, also, oh god, what was it? There was this really weird trend of workers, essential workers, wearing the clear face shields, or people only wearing the face shields. Which, I mean, on some level is rather smart. Because the eyes are also an entry point because they're mucous membrane. A little bit harder for an infection to happen that way, but still possible. Blah blah blah. But yeah, essential workers were only wearing the clear mask, which has there's no filter. There's no, like, it's not like snug coverage over the face. It's just a plastic shield that keeps spittle from, like, going directly into somebody else's food or mouth or whatever. But they were suddenly seeing not so much a spike, but a rise in essential care workers getting sick. And they're like, wait, what's going on here? And so, of course, science people decided to look really hard, like, okay, so why are essential workers getting ill? Why are we seeing a rise? They're wearing a face shield. Shouldn't that be good enough? Why isn't that protection enough? And they very, 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 very quickly figured out, oh, it's because it's a face shield. There's this giant gap down below and at the sides. So yes, it stops direct water droplets, but there's still a lot of airflow. And so they're still sucking in, the very, very fine droplets from breathing. They're still inhaling because there is no filter. The mask is what is actually keeping most of the air droplets from breathing, from respiration, out. That's what's helping to keep people from getting sick. So while the face shield is great for the most part, from stopping the spread from the worker to other people, it's doing nothing to protect the worker from other people who are asymptomatic and breathing it out. So yeah. Oh god, yeah. So, I love and fear Twitter on two separate levels. It's just very intimidating to me because I'm a bit more of an introvert. But Twitter is amazing because Twitter is so rapid fire. It's like fact check in real time kind of stuff. And by the way, don't ever piss off Black Twitter, because they are not kind. And they're not meant to be, and I'm so thankful for them on a lot of levels. Because boy, if you need to find out some information, if you need somebody exposed, if you need somebody put in check real damn quick, piss off Black Twitter. Get Black Twitter called on you and see how fast your employer will be notified of your actions. Yeah, love them. But yeah, no, there's so much instant news that goes on Twitter. And yes, you always need to fact check stuff. Always double and triple check stuff. Like, that's a habit that we all need to get into. But yeah, you can find so much just rapid fire information on Twitter that quite often can be double, triple checked and verified very, very quickly and easily. TikTok is my other huge source for news and facts. And it's amazing to have these, like, 1-minute clips giving you a ton of information. But also, like, people are holding each other accountable for actions. And it's actually really wonderful to see. Yeah, Twitter fandoms scare the shit out of me. Just straight up, they do. They do. And yeah, well, K-pop has a lot of issues in and of itself, but at the same point in time, I also appreciate the K-pop fandoms because it was the K-pop stans and their more woke bands that they literally asked the fans, "Hey, there's a big issue going on. Can you please go and help handle it in these fun and interesting ways?" And they did. They did so en masse. It was fucking brilliant. Yeah, they get shit done. And yeah, but they can be a little bit rabid, a little bit scary. Yeah. Yeah. And that's my whole thing though, is like the stands need to be taught when to use their power, not just to use it indiscriminately. Like their their whoever is leading the fandom, whoever is the person that they stand for, as it were, they need to take a very strong stance and tell their young hive mind, who are, yeah, you're right, who are usually Gen Z, hey guys, when I ask you to do something, I need you to do it, but I need you to do it with some amount of, regard. So if you're gonna dox somebody, don't dox their personal information. Notify their employers. Notify their community. Like, go at them that way. Don't threaten their family. Don't dox where they live or the vehicle that they drive. But by all means, let their employers know. Let their schools know. Especially if it's a college. Let potential people who, you know, could give them clout or money, let them know beforehand who they are hiring or who they are letting attend their school, or, that kind of thing. So yeah, you have to give that wildfire a path. You have to give it direction. If you don't give it direction, it's just going to be a scorched earth, General Sherman kind of thing. But if you give these very passionate, very smart young people a direction, you will show them that they can wield power without being a, um, a force for evil, as it were. But yeah. Hey, I'm Kate. How you doing, dear? See, I've only drank like an inch of this coffee, and I'm still perky. I'm still here, and I still feel good. Oh, I love this. Like, I just need like if I could just get, honestly, if I could get a week of this, that would be like the most awesome vacation. That would be perfect, honestly. Like, I get that I'm going to live with depression my entire life because that's how my brain's set up. And I understand that. I understand that now probably better than ever. But if I could get these on a predictably, you know, decent schedule, that'd be awesome. That'd be really, really awesome. I mean, yes, there's a lot of stress going on in the world, so sometimes that does affect how often my depression decides to kick itself over. But like, if I could just feel just this level of energy without the agitation of the really bad parts of my depression kicking over, if I could feel this level of energy on a more regular basis, I honestly feel like I could get more done. Not just in my personal life, but like I could get more done to affect positive change in the world around me. And honestly, I feel like I've kind of done some good today. Like just being here and being able to talk and being able to like go through some history and chat and whatnot. I honestly feel like I've done quite a bit today just because I feel better and I have more energy and I have a direction to put it in. So yeah, I'm really really okay with it. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And it's like when you feel good, when you have that energy, you're like, yeah, I can totally do this today. Like you get so much. Okay, let's put it this way. Yesterday, I had more than enough energy. I cleaned a bathroom. I wiped down mirrors. I scrubbed stuff. I got a full load of laundry done. I've got like way more laundry I need to do today, but I got a full load of laundry done. I got the dishes cleaned up. I mean, like I filled the dishwasher, emptied the dishwasher, put the rest of the dishes in. Like I got so much done around the house before I went and had some safe social distance interaction. I'm like I think I scared my roommate. Well, not scared, but startled my roommates. And I was like, "Hey, which cloths do we use for cleaning again? I just want to make sure I didn't accidentally take a tea towel meant for the kitchen or something to clean, mirrors and stuff." But yeah, I was like, "Yeah, I just just want to know so I didn't put the wrong thing in there." They're like, oh, oh, okay. These are the ones we normally use, and we've got them over this place, and blah blah blah." And, okay, do 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 do. And I think me having kind of that extra bit of energy and that upbeat helped. And I guess it was slightly infectious because they did some cleaning yesterday too. And so it was all separate, but it was all very mutually. We kind of cleaned and we got our shit together, at least for a day, and did the thing. And it felt really good. And I'm like, this was helpful because yes, no, it wasn't just, oh, I'm getting past my depression and stuff and being functional. It was the fact that we all seemed to suddenly have enough energy to do something that needed to be done, but we were all just too tired, too fed up, too whatever to get shit done earlier. But hey, now we all had that energy. We all went, we did the thing. So it was fabulous. It was wonderful. It was great that way. And I mean, I would love to feel like this. I mean, if it took having depression for a solid week every month so that I could get 3 weeks that felt like this, and I'm not even talking manic level energy, just like I feel good, I can get shit done, I have like half dozen spoons instead of just one spork. We can do this. Like, that would be amazing. That would be so freaking amazing. Like I'm halfway to going out and taking a couple of walks around the block. Like I'm feeling good enough to exercise. Yeah, that didn't feel like a crazy statement for once. I actually feel good enough that I could do some exercise today, maybe do some walking, maybe if I have uh I'm working on organizing the room today. I'm actually not stressed about that, but I do need to organize the room today. But yeah, like if I can get my room organized today, maybe I'll do a bit of stretch and maybe some like 10 to 15 minutes worth of yoga. Like honestly, I didn't feel last week like I even had enough in me to exercise. Because every time even attempted it, I felt so much more tired afterwards, and everything felt like it hurt. Just, and it wasn't like, oh, achy joints. Maybe I'm coming down with something. It was just the stretch. Oh God, body punishing me. No, ow, fetal position. I'm so tired. Like, what is going on? And it was the depression's just going, nah, bitch, we're not doing this. Get yourself back to bed. We're not. No, we are not entertaining this at all. So yeah, like if I had to sign a contract right now that said, hey, you are going to have depression for like a week solid every single month, but you'll get 3 weeks feeling like this. Yes. Oh my God. I would take it. I would absolutely take it. And yeah, it is so hard to like give yourself that break and go, you know, yeah, yeah, you got depression. Yeah, you're dealing with some shit, but like deal with it, but don't castigate yourself for dealing with your mental illness or dealing with your depression, because this isn't just a mind over matter kind of thing. It's like full on brain chemicals are saying F you. You have to give yourself that that leeway to be human. And that's always the hardest part, is giving yourself that leeway to be human. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's definitely a learning process. It's a learning process that takes me a lot of time, um, because of my life and because of a lot of stuff that I've gone through. And that thought, or that upbringing that says, well, you have to be perfect the first time. If you're not constantly on, if you're not perfect, if you're not fitting within these parameters the first time, then you failed for the entire day. Like, I used to think, no, I still think, if I wake up at 8 a.m., I'm late. If I stay in bed till 10, I'm a loser and a failure, and I've wasted the entire day. 10 a.m. to a person who usually doesn't go to sleep till about 2 a.m. Like, I know it's a crazy thought process. I know it's not a sane, rational thought process, but it's one of those things that it has been normalized. And it it's that thing. It's just that thing that has been, smacked into your head since you were like usually a kid, and then beaten into your head when it's like, hey, you got to get to work, which means you got to wake up at 5 and get ready, and you have to be out the door by 6. That way you can be there by 7:30. Cram some breakfast into your mouth, go in, work from 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock a.m. till like 6 o'clock p.m. Clock out, that hour and a half drive home kind of thing. Like, yeah, it's just, ugh. Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Thank you. Yeah, I think we really do understand each other on a lot of levels, Kate. Yeah, yeah. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Like, I think in a lot of ways, this this is what I've always kind of wanted to do. To me, being able to talk, even when it goes dark, even when it's about not so pleasant subjects or things that can get very weighty and very heavy, like talking, interacting, exchanging ideas is like therapy to me. And I know it's like therapy to other people, because you're having a catharsis. You're getting a lot of this extra weird, dark energy out of your system. And you're also seeing that it's normal across the boards. You're seeing that there are a lot of people who also have these thought processes or share these same stresses, which means you don't feel nearly as alone. Feeling alone can honestly create such a, how do I put it? It can create such a tiring atmosphere. And when you don't feel alone, when you feel heard, when you feel understood and other people know what you're going through, it helps to relieve a lot of that tension, a lot of that stress, because now you can sit down as a group and go, okay, how do we make it better? Okay, well, we're all feeling this thing. Is there a way to negate it? Is there, or can we just talk about it? Because, once we understand that we're not alone, that we're all going through this, okay, cool. Now there's a way forward. And finding that way forward can be very empowering and honestly the thing that you need in order to get by and make it through. So yeah, like sometimes when you're only sometimes when you're only doing group in your own head, it's just you're yelling at yourself. And that is so tiring. You're yelling at yourself for hours and hours, but nothing's actually getting out because you still feel alone, you still feel isolated, you still feel yeah, it's oh my god. Okay, I might steal that. I might actually steal that. I am laughing so hard because it is spot on. It's so true. It is called group for a reason. It's group, not you. But yes, that's the reason I want people to be able to think. I want people to be able to talk and interact and have that process where they can talk about anything and nothing and just general life and, be able to get that out because it's about figuring out what works for the group. And it's also about showing you that you're not nearly as odd as you think and that a lot of other people go through this exact same thing. But we've been conditioned to think that, this is just odd. And, look at the media. It says that everybody's happy and tra la la, and you're the only one who's have a dark little rain cloud over your head. Well, no, no. A lot of people are going through this. We are just fed this weird ass propaganda that tells us that there is something wrong with us if we are having a bad day, or something wrong with us if we don't want to do the thing, or something wrong with us if we don't meet the weird expectations that are honestly profitable for a capitalist society, but not profitable, or not profitable is not the word I'm looking for. Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. There's this propaganda to bully yourself into doing what's good for the overlords. I'm using hyperbolic language at this point. We are taught to bully ourselves until we do what is good for the overlords, but we are often dissuaded from doing what is good for the individual so that we are functional. Thank you. Your value equals your productivity. That is what we were taught in most societies. Your value, your worth to society is wholly reliant on how productive you are. And yet the most productive people so far, bar none, honestly, are the people who are at the very bottom, that level from poverty, working poor to middle class. Those people are actually the most productive because they are actually making the product. They are putting the product together, whether it's a physical product or even a virtual product. They're putting it together. They are doing all the work. The people profiting at the very, very top keep those below them poor enough that they cannot be competition, but also so that they cannot make policy that would benefit them. The people at the top make the policy to benefit the people at the top. And they do it in a way that keeps the people at the bottom for the most part. And then they promote this weird idea that if you just try hard enough, you too can be at the top. And it creates a false narrative of exceptionalism. And it's like, no. And we're just starting to figure out, and I want to say a lot of this is because of mass media. And by mass media, I don't mean like the news streams and whatnot. I'm talking like social media where we can interact with each other and give ourselves, minute by minute information between ourselves. We are figuring out that they're full of shit, firstly. And secondly, we need a freaking break. We just need to like actually take care of ourselves. Now, whether that means sleeping in till, 10 a.m. or if it means getting a cup of tea or a coffee or having some boba or talking with some friends or just chilling, like we're learning how to care for ourselves in small daily doses, which is actually way more beneficial rather than trying to cram all of our care into like 2 days at the end of the week, or 2 days when you just like, okay, I have to get everything done. And like you literally spend an entire day getting everything done that you needed to get done during the week, and like you're on a time clock and so then that last day you're absolutely exhausted and you feel like you get nothing done. You don't really feel like you've recovered, and then you're dreading it because you need another day to just go, okay, physically recover, okay, let's go out and have some fun and socialize. Another day to like, again, socialize and recoup and then go back to work. No, you got to cram it all into 2 days. It's like, oh my God, it feels impossible. And you feel it's learned helplessness. And when I learned about learned helplessness as a psychology student, it was like, oh shit, there's where a lot of my problems are. What? Yes. Oh my God. Right. And I think that's where one of my biggest problems lies when it comes to putting myself forward on social media. I'm like, what part of my self-care do I need to show people in order to become popular enough that the thing that I show them will also garner me enough income that I am not stressed out beyond belief? And yeah, it just, like everything I do has to become monetized, it feels like. And like you have to show that you are self-care and relaxing enough that you can monetize, and sometimes it's not even like physical money, but like monetize or build clout enough to justify you providing yourself with self-care. It becomes a vicious cycle. And I suck at showing people, well, here's my self-care routine. Like, dude, if I'm having self-care, I'm not necessarily documenting it, because if I'm documenting all of my self-care, that's a freaking job. That's photo editing, that's filters, that's typing up a report on what I did. Like, if I'm having self-care, I need to be in that moment of, yep, and just doing the thing so that my body can process, hey, you're not on. You're not on. You don't have to show off. You don't have to like make sure that you have the right filter, the right angle, the right whatever. You're just do the thing, relax, let it soak in and get the benefits from it. So yeah, it's so weird that we do this, but it's also so empowering on so many levels that we now have the media capabilities to do this and talk through this and understand the process. And I love it and I hate it, but I love it. I honestly love it because honestly, this is how you get a society to become self-aware is you get them to talk about it. You get them to interact. You get them to trade stories and information, as it were. And they start to realize where they're doing something right, where they're doing something not so right, and how they can change to make it better. So while it may be a double-edged sword, it's a needed sword. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, no, no. Okay. Oh, I love that you brought up that fact because, yeah, that happens in England. It also happens over here. And it's because education is low in those areas. And by no means am I calling them, I'm not calling them dumb by any means. The education in the area was kept low on purpose by people who needed to keep them subjugated. And if they had the information and had been taught critical thinking skills, they would not stand for the bullshit um, that has been foisted upon them. They wouldn't stand for it at all, which means the people who are keeping them down would no longer have a serfdom. They would no longer have um, people who would be happily working under them for pennies when they know that they could be paid a fair wage and have a decent living. But again, they've been kept intentionally underinformed and undereducated by people in power. And they have been convinced, they have been subtly convinced by the propaganda that has been put out that they are temporarily embarrassed millionaires and not subjugated and oppressed people. I'm going to say something controversial here. White people can be oppressed. And it is often done in the form of classism. Being poor has been the one way to keep a majority workforce of white people subjugated. It is the easiest thing for the most powerful, not the richest, but the most powerful people, who are usually Caucasian, to redirect anger and attention on people who do not look like the majority. And in doing so, they create oppression of the minorities. And they've been doing it for hundreds of years. It's not a new invention at all. Been doing it for hundreds of years, if not millennia. Some of that propaganda was far more violent and far more effective than others because I look so unlike a majority. And persons who are darker than myself look so unlike the power majority that, yeah, it becomes easier to shift that anger towards, well, that person who already makes me nervous because they don't look like me, they must be the source of the problem. Instead of going, no, no, asshole with all the power who's making these really stupid, messed up rules, they're the problem. And so, yes, it's like how to break that cycle is the most difficult part, because it comes in the form of providing whole education instead of, education that's been cut and parceled to, again, continue to favor that propaganda. It's insidious. It's small, it's slow. Again, it's all about steps. So yeah, it's like, it's weird to watch. It's weird to see. On some level, I'm not mad at people who hold these wholly dumbass beliefs, because on many levels, they don't know any better. And they have not been allowed to know any better, which has caused a whole host of problems and is a pain in the butt. But, like, for the most part, it honestly is not their fault, because it's been done to them over centuries and not done over like a decade or even a generation. It's been something that's been done for generations, not generation. So yeah, it's something that has to be slowly chipped away and broken down. And I think that is like one of the biggest things that is going on in America right now, especially with education. We are pricing the poor out of education, because education would give them a better means to make money, but far more importantly, it would give them a better means to understand uh, how they are not being treated with a fair and level hand, and that they deserve better, if that makes sense. Absolutely. Like, there's so much hidden dark history, not just in America, but like in most countries. There's so much hidden dark history that nobody has talked about, and that, the records have been swept away and hidden. But now more and more people are doing research. They're stumbling across old hidden histories. They're bringing that history to the forefront. That is what is waking so many people up, is being shown history that was otherwise forgotten. And I mean, I've learned so much in the last few years that was never taught to me in high school. If most of this stuff had been taught to me in high school, yeah, this country would be very, very different if we had been taught about Tulsa, if we had been taught about Detroit, if we had been taught about Rosewood and Seneca and missing and murdered Indigenous women. If we had been taught more than, oh yeah, the Trails of Tears happened, and we moved them from one place to another because they lost the battle and they agreed to move. No, bitch. No, bitch. They conceded the battle because they were promised, if you concede now, we'll let you live, instead of slaughtering every single man, woman, and child and wiping you from the face of the earth. The Trail of Tears was a forced march, and I do mean march, that killed 10,000 people because they were given zero rest. They were not given proper shelter, let alone food. They were not given time to hunt. They weren't even given the equipment to fend for themselves. So yeah, no, like honestly, if the true history of a place was taught, I think governments could kiss their ass goodbye. Like a lot of bigoted people in power could kiss that power goodbye, because you would then have a base of people who are all basically on the same class level, looking at each other going, wait. You're telling me that you were beaten, you were flogged, you were uh, kept prisoner in small rooms, you were raped, and all these horrible things were done to you. Well, shit, that happened to me too. Who did that to you? Oh, this person? You know what? That person did that to me too. Oh, that person, this group of people, they're a freaking, they're the person who is the problem. We need to remove the problem. If they are the problem, let's get rid of them. They don't get our money anymore. They don't get to do this to us anymore. We stand together as a united front. Suddenly, you would have 100 people going, no, we're not just going to put up with your bullshit. You don't get to do this to people. That's rude. That's mean. That's horrible. That's horrifying. That's a frickin' crime. No, you don't get to do that anymore. And you try that again with one of us, you're going to deal with all of us, and we will take you apart. And if you don't know what groups I'm talking about if you had indigenous people, if you had blacks, and if you had the Irish. Yeah, that's right. I'm including the Irish in this one. Because in America, they tried to enslave indigenous people. And indigenous people went, holy hell no. We would rather death. We will fight you. We will fucking fight you. So they imported people who did not speak the language, who had no familiar land, who didn't know the terrain, who, like, this was a whole new scary ass continent to them. And, you know, they made sure not to take the fighters. They took the villagers. They took people who were not trained in the arts of war or in the arts of armed resistance. There's a reason for that. There's a reason they took who they took. And yeah, they brought Africans over here and they beat a new language into them and they beat a new culture into them. And that way it was easier to slowly wipe out Native Americans who would not do labor for free and who would not be so easily enslaved because they knew the territory. They knew the terrain. They had warriors. They had people who knew how to fight and who could train new people how to fight. There's a reason, though, that some Native Americans look a little bit more African, because they would actually help us escape slaves now and again, survive, and sometimes they got adopted into the tribes. My father is actually half Native American. Looks very, very, very African in features and whatnot, but he is truly half Native American. So, I mean, yeah, there you go. You've got, if those two classes, if those two people had been able to communicate and work together, white people would have not been able to do a lot about it. But also, the Irish were brought over, and the Irish It wasn't a matter of looks, it was a matter of class. And again, the class and cultural propaganda that had been brought against the Irish made them indentured servants, but they knew the people bringing them over, the English bringing them over, knew that they could not enslave the Irish in the same way that they had enslaved the African, because the Irish knew the language. They knew English. It had been beaten into them. They had already gone through that whole period of nastiness. Um, so they gave the Irish a nominal step above the slaves and reinforced the thought process of, hey, at least you're not a slave. You're an indentured servant. You've got to serve for like 7 years. Your boss is going to be an absolute dick and do some horrible things to you, but you're not a slave. It's not generational. Your children will not be born slaves. I don't have the right to sell you as property. You're technically a human being. Like, yeah, they gave them like a nominal step, and they kept those slaves, and they were brutal to those slaves in some small part so that they could bring in other people and tell them, hey, at least you're not, you may only be here, but at least you're not here. Now, if you want us to put you there, we can do that. And it's like, oh, no, 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 no. And so they ended up using that as leverage to uh, create that mindset of, you're almost white, because they did not count as Caucasian, they did not count as white back then. You're almost white, and if you try hard enough, we'll treat you as white eventually. So yeah, it's the, you are a temporarily embarrassed lower class, but if you work hard enough, you can actually get to being one of us. So yeah, again, it wasn't something you go from 0 to 100. It's those little steps, that little sliver. And honestly, I think it's going to take probably at least another 2 to 3 generations. I'm being realistic. It's going to take another 2 to 3 generations, but I think with media as it is, I think we're going to make more steps forward and really realize that, oh, we know who the problem is. Now we need to educate ourselves and get together and start solidifying so that people are on or can get to or given the same level when they are born as everybody else. And then, yeah, some people are going to be a little bit richer or have a little bit more. But if we are all working from that same starting point, if you become richer, but you are still treating the people who work for you with a lot of love and care and respect, and making sure that they're healthy and happy and well taken care of, and you know, that actually makes it more profitable. Like, we could have the most amazing booming economy worldwide if we treated everybody on the same or near the same level when they are born, instead of going, this person who has all the power gets to make all the rules. Like, ah, damn it, don't you understand? We could be doing so much more. Like, so much more. So much more. If we simply gave people the means and the resources to live comfortably across the board. Because when you're healthier, when you can get preventative care, you actually lose less time to major illnesses, and you get more productivity out of a person. So, yeah. Mm, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, that kills me. And it doesn't kill me because, oh, well, oh, they're just trying to be above me. No, no, no. It kills me because it means that they've been fed so much propaganda that their skin is the reason that they aren't happy, that their skin is the reason they aren't more successful, that their skin is the reason they are not perceived as more worthy in our society. I'm like, that, like, oh, it makes me feel so sad. Like, every time I see that, I'm like, lightness of your skin don't mean the darkness of my skin. Honestly, I wish I could be a couple shades darker. And I speak from light skin privilege when I say that. I already know this. But I wish that I was a couple shades darker, because to me, those colors are so beautiful, so rich. And I mean, there's so much beauty in it, but also there's a lot more protection in it. This built-in tan has probably saved my skin on a number of occasions overall, because it can absorb some of that sun damage. It can absorb, a little bit extra. Whereas I've had some very, 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 very fair-skinned friends who literally burned in 10 to 15 minutes out in the sun, and it was like painful red. I still remember my very first boyfriend. He was British, and he was translucent. Boy, he was so pale. Um, and he had only ever been to British beaches, which I guess over there you don't get too much sun. And so he didn't think anything of it to go to a California beach. He's sweet, but so dumb at times. No, actually, it was just undereducation. He didn't understand the difference between a Southern California beach versus a British beach. British beach, not too much sun. You can put on a little baby oil or tanning lotion, and it's all good. You'll get a little bit of a tint. Well, you take your translucent butt out to a Southern California beach and apply a bronzer or baby oil. You don't tint, you don't tan. You set your world on fire in the worst ways possible. And yeah, he's lucky he didn't. Um, he's honestly lucky he didn't do more damage. He was so red, like painfully red. I'm amazed he was not blistered. That's how red he was. It looked like he had been scalded. It was so bad. And it was pure agony, and I it really hurt me to see him in that much pain. I had not been at the beach with him. He had gone out with friends. But yeah, like when I saw it, I was like, "What did you do?" He's like, "I went out to a beach." I'm like, "How long were you out there?" He's like, "About 20 minutes." I'm like, "Well, I'm sorry, back that whole thing up. How do you burn in 20 minutes?" "Well, I put on some baby oil." I'm like, "No." But yeah, it's this, again, it's that weird propaganda of the lighter you are, the more you will fit in with the majority power group. And to take to apply skin lighteners to your entire body, often they don't tell you what's in those skin lighteners, but they are harsh, nasty chemicals that destroy cells. They destroy skin cells, and they destroy pigment cells. And you end up train wrecking your body in some horrible ways. And some of these actually contain mercury and lead. And if you don't know mercury and lead very well, mercury and lead can create skin lightening, but they also create madness. And I'm not even being hyperbolic. It creates madness. It creates antisocial behaviors, because it so harshly affects brain chemistry. That saying "mad as a hatter" was because hatters used liquid mercury in the hat making process. And it wasn't like, ooh, I spilled some mercury in my hand. No, no. They were heating mercury and using the mercury in that process and inhaling it. And it destroyed brain cells and caused madness. So I can't quite remember exactly what part of hat making processes, but it wasn't like, ooh, I've knitted myself a cap. This was fine hat making. Fine hat making used mercury in a series of treatments for, I believe it was for the shaping, for the coloring, and no, but I am somebody who really, really loves history and loves fashion and whatnot. So I've learned about a lot of these things. Also, some of the adhesives they used were very, very strong and caustic. But yeah, yeah, it was all about, yeah, that it was all about these very strong chemicals that could, oh, we found this new chemical that adds this beautiful color or that does these wonderful things and makes these beautiful things that we create out of fabric last a lot longer, look brighter and better and whatnot. But yeah, heated mercury, like mercury at room temperature is liquid. You have to get it very cold in order to freeze it into a solid, but mercury at room temperature is liquid. A little bit of gentle heating and it becomes aerosolized. It becomes steam basically, and you're inhaling it and it slowly just destroys your brain until you are absolutely mad, and it causes super violent reactions. And oh god, what was the, I think it's, I want to say it's called Texas Lone Star or Lone Star. It's about um a fire crew who works in Texas. Rob Lowe is like the lead. They have a beautifully diverse cast. I really enjoyed the show. I honestly did. But at one point, you're watching like a board meeting or something with, just a bunch of people sitting around. They've got lunch delivered to them, everything. They're sitting there, they're eating, and then suddenly you see people just kind of get up, walk towards a window, and then just slam their heads into it till the glass shatters, and then they throw themselves out of the window. Another person picks up, like, I can't remember if it was broken glass or a sharp object, and just starts stabbing themselves. And like dozens of people are trying to hurt themselves, and like other people are trying to stop them. But these people have gone absolutely out of their mind en masse. And the EMTs show up and they're like, what in the hell is going on? These people are super violent, aggressive towards themselves, and when other people try and stop them, they get aggressive towards these other people. And they figure out it's basically Mad Hatter syndrome. In other words, these people all have mass mercury poisoning. And it caused a very, very violent reaction. They've all gone mad as hatters, and they either try and, damage or kill themselves or the people around them. And it's like, what in the hell? It's, oh, somebody dosed them. Or some way they got a massive dose of mercury. That's what's causing this. But yeah, like mercury is an insidious poison, and I believe targets targets the brain, but it also really targets what's called the amygdala, which is it's not lizard brain, which is your brainstem. It's a little bit past your lizard brain stage. And the amygdala helps to regulate certain emotions, especially aggressive emotions. And if your amygdala gets damaged or destroyed, like what mercury does, it makes you violent. It makes it so that you cannot control aggressive tendencies. Happened with, I think his name is Phineas Gage, the guy who caught an iron rod through the skull and lived. So yeah, it's an insidious thing. I I honestly think that because of things like EPA regulations and a lot of the a lot of the regulations that we put for chemicals and what can be used in what we do and what we expose people to, because we realize certain chemicals are very caustic and dangerous. Yeah, we stopped using mercury and lead and a few other chemicals, or we've severely limited the use of mercury, lead, and a few other chemicals where people could be mass exposed to them, because we figured out that they do horrible damage to the brain and to the body. And since we got a lot of that out of our production, you're seeing less and less uh, antisocial behaviors and less uh, anger or aggressive based behaviors, because people are not being exposed to those chemicals nearly as much. You're still going to have some of those behaviors because they either naturally occur or maybe somebody was exposed or whatever. You're still going to see it, but it's going to become more and more of a rarity as people are exposed to less and less of these caustic chemicals. And again, it takes generations to get out of the system per se, but this is probably why you see far less aggressive, hypermasculine, or hypertoxic behaviors, because A, we recognize them as no longer being super socially acceptable, and B, people don't have those tendencies anymore because they're not being exposed to a lot of the chemicals that would cause that, and we recognize the harm that they do. So, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's called Mylon or Mylar. Yeah, so the coating on nerves is actually created by cholesterol and fat cells. And yeah, mercury and certain other toxins latch onto fat cells. So if your nerve endings are coated in fat basically to protect them, but a toxic chemical that has adverse effects latches on to that fat and then coats all of those nerves, especially in the brain, guess what your brain is getting exposed to? But now that we're not allowed to just openly use those chemicals, or we limit the exposure to those chemicals, we recognize now that, oh, oh, those are not good. Oh, we understand what we were doing to our brains and it was not good. And this would explain why we had these hyper toxic or hyper violent uh, behaviors. We need to learn how not to do that anymore. So yeah, like you're seeing um, a lot of the lead toxins. People are no longer exposed to them because houses used to be painted with lead-based paints. When we stopped using lead-based house paints, we're actually starting to see lower rates of hyperaggression, illness, cancers, and certain other medical issues because people are no longer being dosed by lead. So yeah, society is a weird and wonderful thing, and it has to move in stages and cycles. But we are overall getting better. Sometimes it just takes a hot frickin' minute and a whole lot of revolution to get us to where we should be, or at least closer to where we need to be. But yes. But yeah, we're doing better. And even though media can be a double-edged sword on many things, it's not that the world is getting worse per se. It's that we finally can see when shit is going sideways in real time versus having to wait days, weeks, months, or years to hear about something happening. Literally, if something goes down, say in Portland, Oregon, we know within minutes, if not hours, after it happens, which means it's very fresh. Instead of hearing about it days later, or weeks later, or even months later, when there's literally nothing you can do to help the people who are affected or show up and help a situation that is currently going on. So yeah, we're becoming better, which means the background noise of a lot of the toxic behaviors that we had are being filtered out because they're no longer happening, or they're not happening nearly at the rate that they used to. And as the background noise drops out, you're able to focus on much more specific infractions that are happening in real time. Yes, at a lower rate, but now that we don't have to okay, there's unrest over there and there's all this going over here, and oh, we got to worry about this here, and da-da-da-da-da. When you have time to sit down and breathe and relax for 3 seconds, it makes it easier to go, okay, not as much as on fire, and oh, hey, that's not a good thing. We should probably take care of that. So instead of having to worry about the house being on fire, the dog has just run away, this medication is killing you, all of this going on, instead you're like, okay, I got 3 seconds to think. Oh, that's, you probably shouldn't be driving your car through a crowd of people. That's not a good thing. We should really rectify that. So yeah, slowly but surely we are getting better. In that same turn, we also are able to recognize when shit is going sideways, and we're still, some of us, a lot of us, civilian types, are still learning certain coping mechanisms and also certain strategies that we were not privy to before. But instead of learning it from a mindset of military personnel or police personnel, we are learning about things from a citizen's standpoint, and we are learning how to handle things as people, as unarmed people, or as the chill little cupcakes that we just really want to be, damn it. We're learning, we really don't like this thing that is going on. Military mindset would say, go in and destroy the enemy. A police mindset would be, go in and maybe not destroy, but go in and get rough and, throw them in jail if you have to. Make it punitive. As citizens who don't always have guns, or who just don't have the compunction to use mass violent weapons, we go, okay, we need to fix the situation. How do we do that? Well, we're going to tell them no. We're going to show up in force. We're going to tell them no. If they try and get, just like a child, if they try and get violent, we're going to take away the thing that can do the most harm, and we'll figure out punishments, but we will also figure out ways to rehabilitate or change the behavior that we find so problematic, which I can't remember if it's Denmark or Sweden, but they are damn near out of prisons over there because they have rehabilitated so much of their populace. And that's the thing, is they focused on rehabilitation of a populace versus punitive measures to cow or quell a populace. So instead of, beating the crap out of their citizens, they go, okay, here's the behavior that you did that we find really problematic. Say it's like stealing. Why did you steal? Oh, you stole because you were hungry and you really needed food and you thought stealing was really the only option you had. And so you stole food, or you stole something that you could quickly resell so that you could have money so you could buy food. Okay, hey, we're going to give you food. We're going to give you a little bit of money to make sure that you can buy yourself more food. We're going to make sure that you also know, we already know that you know it's wrong to steal. But if you have to get food, or you feel like you're in the position where you're going to want to steal, here's some other things that you can do first so you don't feel like you're in this desperate situation. So, they give them the education, they give them the rehabilitation, they give them the tools to cope so that society runs better. Because if your society doesn't have to worry about people stealing, well, shit, that gives people a lot more free time to not have to deal with theft. And, slowly makes everything better. Because everybody recognizes that they are on the same social contract level and that there are options. People with no options tend to do stupid shit. And when they do stupid shit, it tends to create angst and unrest and, creates issues, to say the least. Creates issues. But if you show people that, oh, no, you have options. You really do have options, and nobody's going to judge you for using those options. You won't be ostracized. You won't be put to the outskirts because you choose an option. It's okay. We all function. You might function a little bit differently, but as long as you're not harming the society around you, we're cool. So yeah, it's a slow matter of learning how to be a functional society that doesn't feel the need to lie, doesn't feel the need to cheat, doesn't feel the need to do these harmful things. But again, takes generations. Nothing is going to be overnight. Nothing's going to be super quick. It's all steps. It's all little steps. But we can do it. I have that much faith in us. I have that much faith in humanity. I don't know how I still have that much faith in humanity, but I do. So, yeah. Anyways, I've got to head off. I have a room to organize, and I still have a lot of really good energy. So I'm going to use it to do something good. I will be back on tomorrow. That is my absolute plan. I know. But I do plan to be on tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. So about 10 o'clock a.m. I hope that I get to see and chat with you guys tomorrow. Bring subjects you want to talk about, because I love talking about this kind of stuff. I know it's tangents and all over the place, but I do honestly love being able to talk about this kind of stuff, get this kind of interaction, and it helps to put forth the building blocks of how we can do better as a society overall. So, yay! Thank you all so much. You're wonderful. You are loved. If you need anything, if you need somebody to talk to rant to like express yourself, if you just have a question that you want to ask, or that you want me to talk about, go ahead and just let me know. Whisper me, drop me a note. It's all totally cool. And maybe tomorrow morning I will be discussing them with everybody. There's even a chance that I'll be on tonight. I'm not going to say for sure, because I have a lot to do, but let's see if I can be on tonight. Maybe I'll do a little artwork or something. But thank you all so much for showing up. You're amazing. Like, follow, share, If you can donate, that would be absolutely awesome. I do artwork for donations, so I'm totally cool with it. Okay, see y'all later. Bye.